We're back with this Germany 1930 campaign. It is February 1930. We just now finished a successful cruiser versus cruiser, three cruiser versus three cruiser action. So the war is off to as good a start as Germany could possibly hope. And with that, we'll proceed ahead and see what March brings us. Well, we lost one transport in the North Sea. That's not terrible. The British lost one last month. Okay. There is both a regular fleet battle and a convoy action this month. In this case, one of our heavies is going to take on one of the British light cruisers. Barring something rather unusual, that should be well acceptable. In addition, two of our heavy cruisers will be attacking a fairly well defended convoy of 7 transports. But I think we will do fine, or should do fine if I don't goon it up in both confrontations. This will give us a chance to get some data on how the British have built their light cruisers and destroyers, because we've already seen the heavies. So let's go meet the Bellona. She is within sight. She is, it says, 17 kilometers away, headed for us. I want to burn that torpedo. It's kind of there for the end. Now with these 9-inch guns, I can't imagine that gunnery-wise this light cruiser can possibly kind of stand toe-to-toe. But she might have a passel of torpedoes on her, so you have to be careful. Kind of standard torpedo range in this era is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 kilometers. She could already have launched on us. It's possible. So we don't necessarily want to get too terribly close. It's not like we can stay out of torpedo range. We want to stay where we've got plenty of time to detect and avoid. And one thing she can do that we cannot is light cruisers and destroyers can throw up a smoke screen. Heavies and battleships and battlecruisers cannot. So that will impact our accuracy a bit. Identified now, and she has fired torpedoes. Haven't spotted them yet, but I'm just going to preemptively avoid now. Now while we're turning, our turrets are having to slew around. That's why we stopped firing. We need to reacquire once we steady up. That maneuver there is kind of why, remember during the ship design, I went for the best available slewing technology, the electro-hydraulic turrets, because of maneuvers like that. Whereas the battleships, even when they're maneuvering as hard as they can, it's a much more gradual turn. Never even spotted those torpedoes so far away. But clearly not. pause for a second and check out what the British have done for their light cruiser class, the Bologna. Okay, 9,863 tons, 28.9 knots, actually slower than their heavies. That would be a pretty good light cruiser speed in an earlier era, in 1930. That's mediocre at best. Maximum bulkheads. So she's not going to flood that easy. Not nearly as easy as the heavy cruiser. She carries 7-inch. She carries a lot of 7-inch guns for a light. That explains her kind of slower speed a little bit. 4 triples of 7-inch. But only a very few secondaries in their 2-inch. So her gunnery is just disproportionately weighted all into those 7-inch guns, which isn't necessarily bad. I don't know that I hate that design. The 7 inches will still fire fast enough close aboard to rip up a destroyer. I'll have to try something like that at some point. Maybe. I don't know. What's she doing for torpedoes? As expected, as the AI likes to do, pretty heavily armed. 4 quad launchers. Deck edge quad launchers and 2 underwater torpedo tubes. These underwater tubes have a much, because they don't rotate, right, or a very limited rotation inside the hull. They've got a very, very narrow firing arc. They've got to be almost perpendicular, whereas that quad launcher obviously can rotate through almost 180 degrees. That's why a lot of times you'll see these deck launchers will have launched, but that underwater extra torpedo has not, which lessens the torpedo spread by 1, but it also means you think they fired their load, and then, you know, just kind of out of the blue, oh, there's another torpedo coming at you on a different azimuth. Let's see. They're pretty big torpedoes. Those are the 22 inchers, bigger than their heavies. Electric propulsion. And standard ammo torps. Or standard torp ammo. Which means he's got a reload, but he doesn't have 2 reloads. So this is kind of the opposite of the fast. The electric propulsion torpedoes are, they've got the full range. They are slower. Not just slower than the fast ones, but slower than standard. But they're stealthier, right? They don't leave nearly as much of a bubble wake. So they have an advantage at, they don't get spotted until later. So it's kind of the opposite of the fast variant. Easily spotted but fast. The electrics are slow, but you don't spot them until they're much closer. Which might be part of the reason why we never spotted that salvo back there. Alright. Enough of that. At least for the moment. She's reloading torp. She can't fire her underwater. So let's just try to slow to cruise speed. Hopefully we can no, she's just trying to run now. She's got engine damage. She's more than half flooded. Half her structure's gone. So you get 1, 2, or 3 of these engine damage icons. That doesn't mean the ship has 3 engines. Every ship has got the same 3 icons. It's basically light propulsion damage, medium, heavy. And you lose more and more speed with each one. Okay, she fixed a little bit of her propulsion. No, she put out the fire is what she did. So she's having trouble making speed with that much engine damage. And then at 3 of those little engine icons, they're pretty much just almost dead in the water. So even, you know, it's a light cruiser, but because we're bow on, a lot of these shots are ricocheting and blocked just because the angle is so severe. I'm going to switch to just high explosive. And there she goes. There's a light cruiser now. The Carlisle class. Another 900 victory points. Another ship sunk. Another very light damage. I think we must have taken a little bit of damage there. Yeah, 10 damage. Just enough to put her in the... to put Saxon into the shipyard for a month. Again. Alright. So, yeah, so there's the result, and then there's a stat page that kind of shows you how much damage delivered, how much taken, how many times you got flooded. Well, she took a lot of flooding and fires from all that. How much crew you got left. Main gun accuracy, and I think this kind of shows what I was talking about before. 17% of our 9-inch shots landed. That doesn't mean they all did damage, right? Because that includes ricochets and blocks. But 17% hit the target, compared to 1.4% of theirs. A part of that is attributable to 9-inch versus 7-inch. The 9-inch gun is just inherently more accurate than a 7-inch, but that doesn't explain that alone doesn't explain 17 versus 1.4. All of those advantages, the pitch, the roll, etc., they all contributed to this. And our secondaries did quite well in addition. Right. So we already, just 3 months on the war, have this enormous, just from a couple of battles, you know, almost 6,200 victory points versus 2. The London newspapers, they've taken note of this. There's some people starting to raise some eyebrows, you know, in Whitehall, in Buckingham Palace, and probably all over the country. Hey, what's going on, guys? Hey, Jellicoe, come on, buddy. What is the name of the British Admiral? It shows David Beatty. I think it's Beatty, right? Battlecruiser guy. He's in charge of the whole Royal Navy for this, and I'm afraid Mr. Beatty is not doing that hot a job at the moment. Let's pile on here. What have we got in this convoy battle? We've taken the measure of both the heavy and light cruisers. We'll have a look now at the destroyer as they protect, or attempt to protect, a convoy. Okay. The way these convoy battles, let's just fight the battle, you'll see. So usually the convoy is, they're going to be over here, are a bit separated from the warship escorts. a lot of times you'll actually be closer to the convoy and their warships are running over to try to intervene. But in those cases, you can a lot of times you can wreck the convoy entirely before getting seriously engaged. In this case, the escort's a better place. We're going to have to fight our way through. I don't want to unnecessarily pickle off our one little torpedo. We may need it for a kill shot at some point. For now, we'll just kind of make our way toward the convoy. And they may have already shot torpedoes at us. Sneaky light cruiser ones. Who knows, maybe a destroyer too. If left to their own devices, the AI, including your own ships, if you haven't designated the target, it will prioritize warships over transports. We're going to let them continue to do that with the mains. Oh, shit. That's one of those sneaky electric ones, I think. I think you're going to eat that torpedo. Let's do an emergency stop here. There's no way he's avoiding that torpedo. Yeah. The trick is to try to hopefully avoid taking more than... Oh, he might be able to go, maybe? Slowing down, tighten the turn. Luckily, the sneaky ones are a little slower, right? Alright, straighten up. Straighten up more. Not that way. No, I took the rudder off too soon. Oh, barely managed to avoid that one. Got him in the rudder. Okay. Alright, well. Now he took significant damage which affected his speed, at least for the moment, maybe temporarily. That automatically shifted the division lead to Victoria Louise. We've done any darn damage to these guys, really. He's far enough away, he could bounce a fair number of shots. I'm just going to HE him for a little bit. Kind of more interested at the moment in just kind of slowing him down. He's fired torpedoes. Questions who back. Either way. Preemptive maneuvering now. Dorsal, just attach. Stop running. It's not that Deutschland is ignoring commands. It isn't. It's just his rudder's jammed or in damage, and so he's not able to. Straighten up if you can. It's kind of helpless. It's just his rudder won't move. They're hand cranking it. The machinery's out. It's kind of lucky. Avoidance there. that wasn't maneuvering. That was just blocking. All right, and just straighten your rudder out and let's open range here. Sure that those forward batteries remain trained. That's enough. Open range here. Faster. We've got a lot of torpedoes. Like we were saying before, you can fire them in the spread. Here comes some more. Hits for 3,500 damage versus got about a third as many hits for about a quarter as much damage. That includes the torpedo hit. So the gunnery damage is going to be under 1,000. Pause for a moment and check out the British destroyer design. Ullswater. A little over 1,800 tons. 31.6 knots. Pretty respectable. Not overly fast for a destroyer. Only 2-inch guns. Even against other destroyers or merchants, that is a little underpowered. and it's only one gun. So gunnery-wise, he's darn near unarmed. Okay, you know what that means? He's probably got a boatload of, yeah, he's got all that firepower in torpedoes. Of course he does. 3 quad launchers, and on a destroyer-sized hull, that's a ton. If you pardon the pun, that's a lot of weight. And they're 21 inchers. It's pretty damaging. They're electric. They're the sneaky ones. With a standard ammo. So he's got a reload as well. And we're probably about 12-kilometer range. Insignificant gunnery threat. Yet another significant torpedo threat. Oh my goodness. I'm about to eat another torpedo. I did so good in the first battle too. Oh, right. Victoria Louise was at 1 knot speed. Bring speed up a little bit just to get some rudder wash over the rudder. Some wash over the rudder, but not too fast. Keep that turning circle tight. It doesn't need to be that tight. We want to kind of turn here and try to get to where we're steadied up right in this gap, I think is our best bet. Alright, heavy cruisers, that's no, we're going to eat 2 damn torpedoes. Is that the destroyer that fired them? I don't know. I know I want it to die before he fires another one. That's our new target. Victoria Louise might. Oh, just one. Okay. Thought it was going to be 2. I had slowed them down, and then forgot to speed them up. That's part of the issue. Here's an excellent case of how not to play Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts. It's not the ship's fault, it's mine. I didn't even see those torpedoes. I didn't even know there was anything going on. I think Victoria Louise is going to sink. She's gone. Well, the British have kind of caught up a little bit in those first 2 one-sided battles. There's more torpedoes. Admiral she's got 1 shot left, and then she'll be out of the works. So Deutschland's hurting. I believe he can still deal with this light cruiser. As long as we don't get too close. As long as we're vigilant, because he can't maneuver very well. No, he's coming toward us. Not turning away to run away, turning away to maintain its range. Not give him a good torpedo shot. We might mask our forward batteries. The 2 aft 9-inch batteries should be enough. We can't make any really hard maneuvers. So we give him a bad angle for the shot. Meanwhile, he's hurting a lot more than I am. I think the merchants are going to get away, though. Okay, he just pickled off his one little torpedo. Well, Deutschland's got a little bit of steering back. Still not 100%, but it's better than it was. Slow rudder shift. I don't wander too close to this destroyer either. Let's keep the 9s on Emerald. Let's get the secondaries. Start working on Ulswater. Okay, everything on this destroyer before he comes up close and throws a bunch of his sneaky torpedo. He just fired. Should be enough to throw off the fire controls of the torpedo solution. Now I try to straighten up, and slow rudder shift is going to carry me in front of him again. He's got one more spread left. Hopefully he dies before he's able to load those launchers. Okay. In the convoy battles, when you sink all the escorts, the battle just ends. I could not go chase the merchants if I wanted to. So we sank a heavy, we sank a light, we sank a destroyer in exchange for a heavy. We did get more victory points. It is a win. But with the correlation of forces, the budget and all that, too many victories like this is a good way to lose a war. Because I wasn't paying attention to torpedoes. But at least Victoria Louise won't be sucking up money on repairs in port. All right. You can see here on that turn, didn't mention it before, but the Brits laid down some new ships to replace their initial losses. A couple of heavy cruisers, 3 heavy cruisers, a light, a destroyer, and then whatever else had already scrolled down below the screen. He's trying to build his way back. We have 2 ships repairing, Deutschland and Saxon. Saxon will be back next month. Our battleships are all still ready to go. They're all still cadet level, only 3 months into the war. Is anybody even green yet? No. Okay. And we're still building these 2 ships. I think we've got enough budget going here. I'm going to go ahead and lay down another cruiser. Replacement for Victoria Louise. Does anyone need to move back over to the North Sea? No. These are all building in the Baltic. North Sea port, North Sea port. Yeah, everyone's in the North Sea. Right, next episode we will see what happens in April.